Welcome everybody. This is Core Office Hours number 20. Today, the emergency response team is back at it again. We are your facilitators. Pat, would you like to introduce yourself?
Of course. What's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday, and we're your facilitators. I'm Patricia Maliksi, and I believe, or my values are positivity, encouragement, and consistency.
Hello, everyone.
Go, Tino.
My name is Pape. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Uh, yeah. I'm Pape. I'm based in Panama City. I'm an illustrator, artist, sometimes run strategies, a muralist. Uh, my superpowers are feeling creativity and going with the flow.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us on Core Office Hours number 20 again. My name is Tino. I am based in Los Angeles, and my core values are empathy, resilience, and collaboration.
I'm Sergio, over here in Argentina, bringing the Spanglish, and my superpowers are curiosity, patience, and clarity. So let's get started.
Let's go.
Bienvenidos, ni hao, bonjour, welcome. I think that's how you name it in German, but I'm not sure if anybody speaks German. Feel free to open your mic and say welcome. Make yourself feel like home. This is
Unmute
co-creation, so let's just unmute yourself and start sharing what we know, okay?
Our mission is go. Who wants to go?
Let's go. Well, I'll go ahead. Our mission is to activate, educate, and support a decentralized global creative community in finding their purpose, growing their careers, and leading the future of creativity. Our vision is to redesign the world from the inside out, one business model at a time.
And this is co-creation.
This is co-creation.
My gosh, but that's fine because we are the system, and this is brought to you by co-creation, and we're so happy you're here. Thank you for making time. I know it's the Wednesday. We're almost there, guys. We're almost through Friday, but the System Core Brand Discovery Foundations is brought to you by chorusmagic.com, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. See, thank you. Hit the button right there. So our agenda is we have the drop-in, our favorite, and then our theme for this week is marketing automation, and we'll have our core Q&A because we are each other's teachers, and we have our captains here to answer all of it. So, and the upload. So let's go to our drop-in.
Well, first, we should remind the community about our awesome broadcasts that we have during the week. Anybody want to go ahead and talk about those?
Yeah, so on Mondays we have our Clubhouse sessions at 5:30 BDD, and Wednesdays, today, right now, you are in office hours. So we get together and we meet face to face over Zoom. That's Wednesdays, always at 11 a.m. PDT again. And on Fridays, we have Design Therapy, again on Zoom, hosted by Keoni Chan and Jose Caballera, the lovely Mary Griffin. That's on Fridays, 11 a.m. PDT as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Sergio. Now we can go ahead and drop in. And we invite the community to drop in, unmute yourselves, and also drop in the chat. We can, give us your name, your location, what you do. And our drop-in question is today, it's have you created a marketing automation campaign using Core? And if so, what challenges did you face? And let's model that. If anybody here in the community wants to go ahead and unmute yourselves and talk about that.
Yeah, I can model it real quick. So my name is Sergio Ariza. I'm in Buenos Aires, Argentina, la ciudad de la furia. That's the name in Spanish. And I'm a brand strategist and a workshopper. And I haven't created marketing automation campaigns using Core. I have created marketing strategies, like the whole strategic overview of the marketing of the company using Core, but automation, that's something that I'm missing. So I'm really eager to hear your stories and see if anybody has done it before, because I have a lot to learn there.
Yeah. So I'll go next and drop in really quickly. I Tino again from LA, and I'm a UX designer that is transitioning to a strategist and transitioning into a business designer who's transitioning to a facilitator and transitioning to many things that I really want to be. And in my work history, in my career, I've worked with digital marketing teams to establish marketing automation campaigns in the past for enterprise companies, and I've worked at establishing these campaigns, but not using Core. So I wish Core had existed, because one of the major challenges that we faced was, how do you make a marketing campaign personalized and not kind of robotized, or I'm not even sure how you verbalize this, but how do you make it non-generic? How do you make a marketing campaign seem personal and fun for a user, for somebody, so that you're not annoyed as a user? That's something that Core, I believe, would really have helped in the past for myself and for the marketing team and for the company in general. So that's a challenge that I faced and that the team faced without Core. So I would love to hear from anybody that perhaps has used Core for their marketing automation campaigns. My name is Tino, and I am complete.
Yeah, I would like to go next. So I'm Pape, based in Panama. I don't have much experience doing automation, like marketing automation campaigns, but I've seen, or with Core, I've seen what I want to accomplish next with email marketing, like Facebook ads, Instagram ads, and how to use like the tools like of automation to make it easier. So, but there, the biggest challenge that I face is learning how to use these interfaces, like learning to use like Mailchimp or anything else that works for this. I think is the biggest challenge, or sometimes matching the ideas that I have and make them into reality, because since I'm the one sometimes creating the ideas, but I don't have the expertise to bring them to lives, it's really hard to make them happen. So I think the biggest challenge that I'm facing now is working with a team, and I guess finding a team that can help with doing the data matching, like understanding which ideas are possible and which are not, which are more efficient. And I guess that's where the data matching exercise comes really handy. But yeah, that's my biggest challenge and my experience.
Thanks, Pape. Would anybody else like to kind of come on stage and talk about this? Even if you haven't used Core on marketing automation, or if you might not even have any familiarity with marketing automation, and you just want to learn more about the topic, feel free to come on stage and talk
Hi,
about it.
guys.
If not, we can.
Jaja, can you hear me?
Yes. Hey, Jaja.
Yes.
Perfectly.
How are
Hey,
you?
Jaja. Welcome back.
Hey. Sorry, I've been a bit busy with family and work. So yeah, I'm back. So recently I have got a client. So basically they have got the beautiful logos, what have you, and they really want to get their sort of tone of voice done. So I think the challenge, what they've got is the previous designers just went in, just gone straight into the visual of the logo designing, the whole look and feel stuff without really truly understand what is a business, what is a brand stand for, who they are. So they asked me, can we do the tone of, can I help them with tone of voice? So I guess my question is, what's the best way of dealing in this situation? Is it, do I need to do the discovery session with the client again? If so, then which part of the brand strategy part shall I introduce? Which part of framework shall I work with?
I think that's a great question, Jaja, and thank you for asking. And I think we're actually going to get to that very shortly. We have one of our captain here that's going to be speaking to that very shortly. And do we have any questions in the chat before we get to that, guys, fellow co-captains?
Yeah, so we'll talk a little bit about that. We're going to be showcasing how we're using Core internally for the system and how we're breaking down our marketing automation. So you're going to get a chance to see a little bit of how we profile and how we're using that to couch our content. Tone is something that's a little bit more specific. Tone is something that I definitely execute like after Core. And after we've kind of executed the creative brief, I'll dive into tone. And usually when I articulate what tone is like, I'll use like, here are examples of celebrities or characters that have this same tone of voice. I try to explain what that voice sounds like. For example, I did a creative brief for an AI company based out of Hong Kong. And the challenge that they had was that the way that they came across was too academic, it was too off-putting. So I explained to them that what we needed to do is we needed to be explaining knowledge similar to like Bill Nye, right? Very comedic, being able to definitely take very highbrow concepts and break it down into smaller pieces. And then to use comedy, right? To be lighthearted about it, not to take ourselves seriously. But that was an example of how I broke down a creative brief specifically for tone. In marketing automation, it's more at a strategic level. So it's like above the level in which you're kind of determining what content is, which is at a tone level. And so in that space, you're talking more about the type of content and how the content is valuable to the customer. And Jose will dive into a little bit of that today.
And we have Andrea raising her hand. I think we can go for the last drop-in, and then let's dive to our marketing automation, since a lot of our community wants to know more about it. So,
yeah,
Andrea.
Hi everyone, I'm Andrea Ava, and I'm between Panama and Miami, and right now I'm back in Panama, which makes me happy, although it's rainy. And what do? I create universes, try to create experiences, and I'm just diving into the whole thing, NFTs. Have I created a marketing using Core? I haven't yet. I would love to. And I guess here is where it's a question more than anything on the challenges I face. Right now I'm in this point where I'm beginning, and it's hard. Oh my God, the rain. And it's hard not to get overwhelmed with the steps. Like, when you're starting, and in this case, I'm making a world, and I have to create the space. I have to think about the character. I'm doing pretty much everything. I'm like turning it into 3D. So how do I not get, overly excited, but to the point where I'm not being a perfectionist and being scared of putting it out there and getting into the whole brand and campaigning and advertisement. So I guess, I don't know if you guys understood my question, but just let me know.
Yeah, let me know if I understood right. You're asking about the how to focus a campaign and not being like all over the place with all the interests that you have, right?
Yeah, like I guess that like how to properly divide the steps and when to know when it's the time to launch that campaign or be ready for that.
Okay, I'll save that question for the Q&A. I have it already in my notebook, so we can get back to it in a bit, okay?
So we'll dive into Jaja and then Andrea's question after.
Awesome, awesome. So let's continue then with our session, and just the, we always want to emphasize this, that we are each other's teachers, and we'll continue with our topic for this session and this week actually, and it's marketing automation. And for this, we'd like to bring on our team here.
Yeah, I'll go really fast so that we don't take up too much time with this. We're doing it right now. We're doing it right now with a partner. The company is called Stoffer. Keone, can you lower the volume just a little bit, or whoever is doing the audio?
Tino,
That's
yeah,
me.
lowered about
No.
10%,
Okay.
15%.
Sorry, I'm gonna have to switch.
It's all good. We can see the magic.
Yeah.
So,
There you go.
so the question of how do you use core, and I think Keone, you can talk about tone.
Mhm.
The first step is really we had to do customer profiles. So we did a call with Chris Stoffer, the CEO of the agency that's doing our marketing automation setup, and he wanted to know a few things about the business, but specifically his most important question was, who are the profiles? So we did a work session together with himself, with Barrett Morse, with Keone, and with Mary, and we segmented our user profiles, and it's in the next slide, into four. Well, first, let's talk top line. Marketing automation is just software platforms and technologies designed for organizations to effectively market across all the channels and automate the different repetitive tasks. And that's what Pape said, like, what are the interfaces and the things that you have to do? Personally, Pape, like you, I'm very overwhelmed by it and all the steps. I bought Aaron Fletcher's funnel thing. I looked at it and I closed it. I'm like, whoa, okay, because it's a lot of stuff. But I'm a user experience designer, so I can really do the steps. Just taking a step back to the next slide, the first step is just using your customer profiles. And the customer profiles, we did them in the hero's journey format, or like in the long-term line. So it's starting the journey, middle of the journey, late career pivot, and then the sunset restart, which is what I'm doing. Basically, I'm in my late 40s and I'm restarting and doing a new thing. So the simplicity of this is that for the needs, for an example, somebody who's starting their career, it's really to create a powerful story for themselves and to know what their superpower is, which is basically going to be the value proposition they provide to their clients. The middle of the journey is really to build a team. Like, they've already grown, they built their practice, now they need to build a team. So leadership and how to align a team, because everybody has different ideas and wants to go in different directions. So you need to be able to lead a team in a way that people feel included, people feel heard, people feel like they're part of it. The late career pivot is, I might be doing this for a while, but I want to stop doing hourly design services or project-based design services, and I want to be a high value consultant. So they want to really understand their purpose and the meaning and have high vibes in what they're doing, but more importantly, charge for their expertise and their experience. So that's a different story. And then on my profile on the Sunset Restart, they want to share their wisdom. They want to develop their own practice teaching. They want, meaning and world-changing purpose. So legacy, basically, you want to build a legacy for what you're doing. So from that, the next slide is what's known in core, the impact narrative, which is really user stories and how they impact the user and how they impact the business. So remember, the data matching is really about what are my needs, and then what are the things that the business needs, and how do they actually work together to co-create the future, right? So really simply, from discover, engage, act, return, recommend, and advocate, that's actually a very pretty much a funnel, what in marketing automation is called a funnel. the purchase decision is done right after the act or after the return. And one of those two, you have those chances. So somebody takes an action, like in this case, signing up for a webinar, and they get convinced that, oh, this is for me. But then they also download, they come back to download and give us their email. And we then email them a offer for a 10-day membership to the Accelerator community. So you notice that all the steps that are going to be automated are in this sequence. And this was done with the team that's going to be doing it, participating. So they came up with ideas, you know, the developer, the strategist, the creative people came up with the idea. And then the last thing is here, you can very clearly see what we have to create. So if they discover us on Instagram, and it speaks directly, how do you tell your unique story and find clients that resonate? What I asked Keone to do was to take the testimonials and the videos from the Accelerator program of people sharing how it's impacted them, and we can then make clips out of those and ask permission to use them, or just write those into quotes and use that as the ad for, you know, this is the Accelerator program, this is what we do, here's what people say, and boom, and it's a minute, you know, video on Instagram, and now we know what the creative is. To the question, and the last thing I'll say before I complete and let Keone talk about tone, because tone for me comes a lot from the voice, you know, and then what I usually do next is translate it. Does it sound like a man? Does it sound like a woman? What age are they? You know, what is their personality? Like, this is where personality comes in. Are they vivacious, or are they professional in state? Is it James Earl Jones, or is it, you know, I don't know, who else it might be. The point about the creative being authentic really ultimately is a lot about tone. It's a lot about the mechanics usually are, here's what I hate. I hate those videos where the guy comes up, hi, are you an agency? Do you want to increase your profits? Are you struggling to deliver to your clients? You know, I'm Aaron Fletcher and I'd like you to use my, I kind of feel uncomfortable with that because of the type of creative that I'm at. So I'm trying to figure out, how do we do it in a way that is interesting, funny, but still uses some of those mechanics? Meaning the first reason why somebody asks, are you a designer? It's because that's the way the funnel, like the people are, yeah, I'm a designer. Oh yeah, I'm having that problem. Oh yeah, I would love a solution. Oh, let me check it out, right? That's how simple it is. David Ogilvy, in the book, David Ogilvy and Advertising, he writes and talks about how to do a sales letter, and it's genius. And the last thing, I swear, I'm staying at a Motel 6, right? And Motel 6, the reason why I keep on staying at Motel 6, actually, their experience is pretty nice. But they did a campaign many years ago. I remember almost when I was at Art Center. I am Tom Bodell, and we'll leave the lights up, and we'll have the lights on. It's this really hokey, like Americana, like, you know, dude reading like a story about travel and about family and about 4th of July and about apple pie. And every time I have to make a choice of a motel, I hear Tom Bodell, we'll keep the lights on. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm staying at Motel 6 because of an advertising campaign that was done 20 years ago. So that's where tonality, authenticity, and value proposition. I'll leave the lights on. They're open 24 hours and you can stay there anytime. Denny's always open. I am complete.
Yeah, so I'll dive into tone, and I'll dive in a little bit deeper to address Jaja's question. And so there's some basic things that I look at when I'm building out a style guide for tone. I'll start with vocabulary, style, demographic, personality, archetype, and impact. And so when I start with vocabulary, right away it's very, very clear that what kind of words that we mean and the definitions of these words. So if we were to say, for example, underrepresented as opposed to I don't know, oppressed, right? Like both of those terms can be used to identify a community, but both of those words have very different connotations. And so it's important that you're always using the correct connotation in the word and the vernacular in a consistent way across all of your messaging. So that's just a start. Then I have style. Style will be like, is this very cerebral or is it very common? Is it very like very slapstick comedy, or is it very deadpan and stoic? Is it very cerebral, or is it very elementary, right? You're jumping back and forth so that you understand when you're crafting the messaging what it should feel like, what the tone should feel like, how the comedy style should feel like. And then there's person, and excuse me, that's personality. The next thing we'll do is demographic. So is this male or female, or is it, non-biased? Is this very young or is this very old? And then I'll dive into archetypes. So is this very like nurturing, or is this like Victoria's Secrets and very sexy, right? Or is it like an everyone brand? So is it very like general, like a Target, right? Or is it like a Bill Burr and very like comedy, but sort of like sharp, but a little bit dark, right? Like what is the personality type like? I'll use archetypes for that. And then ultimately I'll end with impact. So what is the lasting takeaway that we want for our audience to understand? Um, is it that they learned something? Is it that they felt like somebody coached them through something? Do they felt like nurtured? They feel like it was like almost like a parental experience, right? Like you can kind of determine and craft how you want the impact to be executed, and from that you can get comfort in the development of the copy and the tone and the style of voice over time. But that's generally how I approach tone. Hopefully that's clear,
Awesome.
Jaja.
That's really helpful. Thank you very much. It's a different process. Obviously, the client has approached to the designer.
Mm-hmm.
Designer obviously hasn't done the brand strategy work, and then to hand it to me is like a ugly baby no one wants, in a way, where you know what I mean. So I just don't know where to start. So sounds like I need to go back to the root and to discover the brand more with this client, and just pretend I didn't see any of those brand logo design, what have you, and then just start from scratch again, trying to discover the brand, understand personality, vocabulary, style, and the rest what you just mentioned.
Well, here's the thing, like these things can be developed after core, or after there's been some sort of established strategy. They doesn't have to be like, ugh, right? A lot of times I've been thrust into the roles where I've had to develop these things based on the product that they're releasing, right? And me not having access to the executive suite so that for me to be able to have any of those things. Or I've been in brand or situations as well where brands didn't have a style guide or didn't have any of these things, and they still needed to launch these products. And it was for me to have to determine these and figure these things out and craft them on the fly. So, look at it as a tool as opposed to like a process. You can leverage it in different situations based on the maturity or, whenever the product or service is being released. But, that's the way that I approach it from a strategic standpoint.
Amazing. So from brand framework, a core framework, which part of a session do you recommend for me to start to
attributes? Absolutely.
Attributes. Okay.
Yeah.
And then
I would do attributes, and then I would validate it with personas.
Persona.
And ideally, if the client has personas that they have data on, maybe they might have sales numbers or testimonials, something qualitative or quantitative that you could look at to really like beef up the profile.
Yeah, let's model it here though. A very simple modeling is, I see right there for the starting 28 to create powerful story, to know the superpowers. If I then go look at the I remember that the voice for the system is integrated, it's wise, it's funny or witty. So basically the value proposition of and the tone for this, can be So let's say in the words of Wise and integrated with our narrative of pirate, like, Wu side, space. It could be like, there's a reference in our culturescapes of Sun Ra, and also of this like cosmic techno deep house, like, an egg with a person meditating in the middle. So the ad could be like
Flying Lotus.
Flying Lotus, right? The ad could be with like cool Flying Lotus style music, and with, what would happen if you could tell your story really powerfully? And the voice is a woman, with like a sultry, like, maybe she's a woman of color, like the Oracle, and she's asking you the story. Would you like to tell, your story powerfully so that you can manifest everything that you want to do in your life? Join me. So right there, I synthesize. Remember, the core is about remixing like a DJ. And then I can pitch that to the client. And in this case, the client is us, but they've already participated in creating the culturescape. They've already participated in the brand attributes. I'm talking to Pape about doing the illustrations for this, and doing the spaceships and doing this beautiful, illustration of woman of color in her pirate space gear. And it could just be her, even without animating it. Are you ready to tell your powerful story? Everyone has a story to tell. Join us, in the Accelerator Program. Immediately, is that going to be compelling to our audience? For sure, because our audience created this with us. The 28-year-old is actually Colleen, who I was just talking to here via text. And we can ask her, Colleen, would this be interesting to you when we do the concept, and pitch it to her? So yeah, okay, we're complete. Let's get all the other questions going. I'm Jose Caballero from Denny's, and I am complete.
I wanted to add something to that. Right now I'm working on a brand strategy that will become like a brand identity. So during this course session, actually, and I have it here, and I was reviewing it today for the brief, and start thinking like about copy. So what I like to do is start jamming and mixing words. But for this case, like his co-creators were like the unidentified professional, the devout athletes, the misfits and the yucks, the ones who lived life beyond their comfort zone, adventurers. Was him and his words. So I was getting this feeling that it was like really kind of poetic. And when I was getting to the voice, he said like, is rough on the edges. It's not perfect, like a drunk sailor. It's vintage and really illustrative. Challenge the status quo. And at the end, he said, this is an I can local attitude. So when he said that, I asked him, if you could choose one place in Panama that could describe the personality of your brand, which would it be? And he said, Boca de la Caja. Boca de la Caja is just basically this ghetto, not ghetto, next to a really rich building. So it's like in the middle of something. Is really disruptive. And in my head, I'm already building like this character for a pirate, because the brand name is Toothless Jack. So it has this piratey vibes mixed with, he loves cycling. So I'm building a character like from the 60s and taking inspirations from old races and mixing all that to help him like envision the brand, because he did come with some references, but they don't match what he said like in words. So what I'm doing is actually what Keone said, that is understanding really good what every word meant, and now I'm doing the exploration to show it to him and get the feedback to keep moving forward. I'm Pape and I'm complete.
Hey, oh no, go ahead, Judge.
So I just said, is there like keywords, isn't it? You find the right keywords, and then you go mapping out the inspiration, visual, and feed everything, and eventually to create something that word and visual matches the personality of the brand.
Absolutely. One of the things that I showcased in circles last year, and one of the things that I teach folks, when they it's more like a pro tip when working on core is when words come across that strike an emotional chord with your client, when they say something, and sometimes the word might have a clumsy meaning or like a clumsy value, but it's really significant. I do lots of research in the etymology of the word, and I look at what's the history of the word, what are its Greek roots, what are its Spanish roots, like where does it come from, what does it mean? And usually when you dive into that space, you get such a deeper breadth and understanding of that concept that they may have been trying to capture, or just maybe they were trying to capture and they just caught a component of it. But what it does is it opens it up so much more, so much further for deeper understanding, for you to really dive into the deep ideas that the clients are really trying to share. And it's always yielded, fantastic insights.
Awesome. Well, I think this is a great way to transition into our Q&A, because I think there's a lot of topics that we can kind of move forward and into our conversation that other folks can participate in. What does everybody think? We're good?
Yeah.
Good to go? Awesome. Let's do that. But first, let's just remind everyone of our quick rules. It's only 2. It's don't give each other advice like you should do this and do it this way. Rather, just speak from, here are a few ways that I have done it, or these are ways that I have seen it be done. And speak from the I. So only share primary or secondary experience. Speak from, I have done it this way, I did it this way, or I have seen so-and-so do it this way and it looked like it worked. If you haven't seen it, if you haven't done it or seen somebody do it, say, I don't know how to do it, or I would try to ask so-and-so and they might know. So those are just the quick rules for sharing. And with that, I'd like to kind of move it over to core Q&A and ask the community to please unmute yourselves and ask away, not only about the topic of, marketing automation, but any core questions that you guys might have. We're all here to help. And so, yes.
I was going to suggest, I think Ava said something and she had like a question that we wanted to follow up. So
sure.
Ava, if you could retell us the question so that we can answer to that, would be amazing. I know I thought about something that I wanted to share, so the stage is yours.
Me? Sorry, I'm half writing, half so yeah, I guess my question is more in the beginning stage, as we're creating, well, at least I'm creating my own brand and mixing it with everything I love. And I see myself getting excited to the point where I'm already thinking about a strategy, or a marketing strategy. And I guess my question is when do you know when you're ready? If you're not ahead of yourself, but I also don't want to get lost in the perfectionist mood where I'm I'm never going to be ready for this. So yeah, that was my question.
Yeah. Now, a follow-up question from my side, and if I can understand, is you're building your own universe and you're creating your own story, and that's part of your brand, and you're in the process. You are already making it, but you have plans in the future to make it grow. Is that what's the context of where you are today?
Yeah, I feel if I was I want to get to a butterfly, but I'm in my little cocoon. So I see myself, I guess, going with the flow of the internet, what I'm thinking that my project should be ready in a month and I'm creating a world by, I guess I'm not being realistic with my expectations of what it takes to, not only create the story, create the visuals, that it makes sense with my intentions and my mission, and how to communicate it, I guess, is where I'm getting a little stuck. And I don't know if it's because I haven't given myself or the project enough time to keep growing, or if I'm getting lost and I don't have a path.
Oh, okay. So from what I'm getting is the biggest challenge that you have today is having some clarity on your story, what it means, what Ava means as a brand, as a structure, and how to, with that clarity, focus on the first step that will move you forward. Is that, would that be correct as a clarification question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So from my experience, what helped me a lot was discovering my story first. It is what's been more transcendental in the efforts that I've made. And to discover that story, I went to a lot of therapy and I embraced fear. And I actually I stopped looking for the right moment and I started to act on the moment. That's something like I did. But after it happened and it all concluded when I discovered Core and I'd run Core on myself, and it gave me the clarity not only as a story but as Pape, as a brand, and as a company, and as something that I want to grow. And actually the and then that first that helped me align my attributes and my voice and how I want to communicate, and actually build a manifesto that then I use for the Carolina Herrera video, that is what helped me achieve like the 10K follower milestone. But adding to that, I feel that when I connected my story into a context of who am I creating for, meaning my co-creators, the creative directors, the gallerist, the, I don't know, the Jose Caballero, the Kionis, and also understanding that I'm also creating for my past self and the future Papes that have a lot to learn. So that helped me a lot to understand that the work that I'm doing is not just about my story, and it helped me focus on how to deliver value telling that story. And the last thing that I would say is that the goals prioritization made me think in a business perspective, meaning I had to think into what brought revenue, what brought awareness, and what made me more effective. And just that framework made me realize that I didn't have my revenue figured out. So for me, my first big goal as a human was to move out of my parents' place and being able to live out of creativity. So I chose, from my experience, to focus on the revenue part first and not too much in the Instagram or building my story, because first I have this need of being financially stable. And just to finish, I would say that now I'm in the process where I'm aligning both, but how what I figure out is that big projects can be divided in small steps that actually cover revenue, awareness, and efficiency. So I'm choosing to work with client paid work that aligns to my story, that I can record and create content so that I can share it into awareness, and doing like almost three things at the same time. But it's quite difficult. I've only been doing it for a year, but saying that I have some goals that I want to accomplish, and I just focus one of them at a time. That I'm Papa and I'm complete. I'm not sure if that helped, but thank you.
That was insanely good. Thank you so much. I wrote everything down just in case. Thank you for sharing your story.
Would anybody else like to share?
Hi, good afternoon, guys, or at least I think it's afternoon where you guys are. Name is Andre Eiffel. I'm hailing from Barbados, and I got Core a couple years ago, maybe 2 years ago, but only delved into it pretty recently, last couple of months. Just got my first 2 clients, and one of the someone is saying BHM massive. So one of the questions I have is, what do you do surrounding the brief? Because I've finished the core process, but now I'm not quite sure how to deliver it to the client and what I should put in there. So that's really one of the main questions that I've
had. All right. Would anybody like to answer that? So I'll share. Generally speaking, it depends on the project, but I will either share a recap of core as a whole in a deck with everybody's input, and I'll share that generally 1 or 2 days um, after facilitating core, and I'll send over a recording. So everything that we discuss, they have an example of it. They have immediate feedback so that they can think about it. They can provide feedback, or what have you. I'll take about a week to synthesize all of that into one clear deck. And in that deck, I have all of the insights, everything that we covered, depending on all the exercises, what the outcome from all the exercises were, and then um, generally speaking, the priorities and the next steps for us to move forward with the project. So um, that can be considered a strategy or brand strategy, depending on where you are in terms of, are you a creative director, are you a full 360 agency, are you a UX designer? Depending on what your role is, that document can be called a number of different things. But I like to look at it as just general brand strategy, just the brand strategy foundations. And that's generally what I deliver to the client. Then, as I progress into the next avenues of work, so if I'm required to create something of a creative nature, it's some sort of design, and something in that realm, then I'll put together a creative brief to put a container around that creative delivery, that deliverable that I have. If I'm doing on the tech space, and I'm developing something, it might be an app or it might be a website. What I'll do is it's very similar document, but I call it the technical brief. And then if this is something that is like for product development, and there's going to be a lot of extensions that are going to come out of this deliverable, then I'll put together generally like a brand brief, which will have all of the different elements necessary to execute. So it might have technical, it might have creative stuff in there, it might have brand strategy overall, it might have some marketing stuff and insights for product development. But that's generally how I deliver after a core facilitation.
Okay, great.
So one note I'll add to that's super important. When you're delivering to your clients, you should have, and something Keone and I have been talking about adding to the current core kit, it's kind of like just a roadmap of the phases or the steps in a form of a diagram. So first we do the core facilitation section. Next you get a summary of the session, which Keone just mentioned. Just here's what we did. And to approve it, you're asking them, is this correct? And give them time to give feedback. And then the next step is you give them a sort of brief. Mauricio is going to post some examples for you. In the brief, you get, what I usually do is, remember, I'm setting up 3 experiments for them to look at 3 different options. So there's 3 interpretations of the same attributes of the same customer profiles. Maybe you choose 1 profile per, so get them to talk about what they like from each and what aspects they would want to actually build out. So stylescapes are part of that experiment. And if you don't have enough bandwidth to do 3 stylescapes, sometimes I just do 2. The key is this: don't give your client 1 option only. Give them like different options and directions. If you look at how Mauro, if you look at episode 13 of the core office hours, Mauro presented how he did that in a project, and it was brilliant. And if you have a chance to watch that episode, it will answer your question.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thanks.
Do we have any more questions? Any more core questions here from the community, or any more here in the chat? Oh, Patricia, you have your
Patricia actually has a question.
I have a question. So I'll switch to an attendee. My question is, do you have experience with like having a brand brief and how you translate that to a digital strategy, since we're talking about marketing automation?
I actually have a brief for an e-commerce that I've been wanting to share it. It's because I found it the other day. It's a company called Hamilton, and we did product architecture for them. So it basically went from the core attributes and what directions to take with them, was actually a science-based company. You know, who would love this would be Hanya. And then it went in, we did a session where we had all the department heads, all the VPs of the different divisions, and we looked at their website and we architected the website together. Like, what do we need? What sections do we need, etc. We did it on index cards. And then I took a picture of the index cards, put those into the deck. And then I went, you know, with little squares. I didn't use anything but Keynote. And I did the architecture in the deck, and I presented it back to them to get approval. And because we did it together, it wasn't me imposing it, and we negotiated the who is on top, what's first, what order do the sections go in with the people there in the room. I also, you sense the energy of people, because inside a company, people might be competing. So, and I kind of said, okay, you feel that you should be first, right? And they're like, yeah, our products sell the most. We should be earlier in the navigation. And I'm like, all right. So does everybody else agree with that? And everybody was like, yes, that's true. Let's do that. And then it basically gave them both the architecture of the, you know, at a sitemap level, and then different options for the design direction. And at the end, you know, this company wasn't necessarily a very designy company. All they cared about was the architecture so that they could build the e-commerce platform. It didn't address like marketing and social media, etc., but you could do the same. We're going to do our social media strategy tomorrow, and you can use, you know, models from that. It's very similar to product architecture. Did that help at all? Does anybody else have other answers to that?
I'm good.
Patricia, did that help, Patricia?
Yes, very helpful. Thank you, Jose. Tino,
Awesome.
do we
Yes.
have any more questions before we dive into our upload?
No, I think
Actually, I have a question.
we do. Pape, let's go.
So I'm working with a client. I did the brand strategy, the brand identity, and she now wants to create her website. Actually, fun fact, she asked me to redo core, and I'm so excited about that. She was so engaged into the exercise, and she demanded to me, like, I want to do this again after 7 months. And it was amazing to see the progress of the brand. And actually, that opens another question. I saw that now she added an attribute that is, for example, playful, and we were running away from that in the last brand identity. So would it be okay to open up some style script for the web page and adding that playful attribute into this at this stage of the work? And also, how any tips on creating the impact narrative and building it into features that I can use for the web page, because I'm kind of lost in how to facilitate that session and how to align it into then wireframes and all of that. Would love any insight about like website processes and creating impact narratives. That would be amazing.
It's beautiful. So I'll do one, and Keone, if you have any to share, but also let's open it up to the community. The whole point is that the community answers those. One way of shortcutting the impact narrative and of not, you don't have to do the whole exercise. It's simply to just do features and say, what features do you want on, you know, and have people throw out all the different features that they want on the website. And then actually go back and look at, so what are the things that the customer needs, and then prioritize the feature based on what the customers need to know, what you do and what value they get from it. So you find the about us or the what we do section, and then you highlight it and you prioritize it, right? That's why the about us section is usually first or second in a sequence on a web navigation. The next thing, once people know more about you, might be their services or what they offer or the product, right? So you have about us, services. The patterns for navigation are pretty standard, right? So you could simply just copy existing patterns and drop make their website based on that. But the key is fidelity. So fidelity comes from knowing exactly what the user needs in those top 3 and hitting them on those pages. So for example, landing pages for a website versus a deeper page, right? So if you go to About Us, or let's say you go to the services page, you then look at all 3 of your users and what are the things that they want to know, and then you use those things to prioritize how you do the focus or the priorities on those pages. An About Us page is going to have a general statement. It might have their company values. It might have, the testimonials or use cases of their product inside, that. It might just have a listing of all their services with descriptions of it. So the way I do it is I use the existing patterns of, by doing a competitive audit of their competitors to see what they're like, because most clients are just like, look at what my competitor is doing, just do that. So I do that. I look at the competitors and I start the sketching based on a competitor. And then I find nuggets from, so for an example, if the nugget is what the customer needs to get and what the business needs to get. Like, let's say there's a particular product that the business is focused on. In our case, it's our Accelerator program. So if we were to do a landing page, which we're going to do next for the system, like our homepage, it would focus on the Accelerator at the top, because that's our current priority in our Q3 objectives. It's that simple. And then we would focus on user 1 and on how user 1, user 2, and user 3. And I already have it memorized, what they need. And if I don't have it memorized, I can bring up my deck, and I know that everything is great. Thank you so much, Jose. Tocayo, somos tocayo. Okay. Hey, Jose también. For example, the 3 value propositions that off the top of my head are: 1, tell your story, learn how to lead your team with purpose, and the third one, if we have that deck in front of us, Tino, what are the needs of the third user, Tino, in what we just showed?
Yeah, let me show that.
So the landing page, ooh, music. I like it.
Sorry, I'll turn that off.
No, keep it on. That's a perfect transition. Okay, so it's to pivot, build a consulting advisory, purpose, meaning, and high vibes. Great. So we end with purpose, meaning, and high vibes. 3 little modules that say, create your story powerfully, find like-minded people, and find me in high vibes. I just picked those 3 things as a sequence. And those 3 things are the 3 little modules of what you're going to get from the system that I would put on the homepage, just based on those users. And here's how: join our Accelerator, our Fire Kit, our Core Kit, our Flow Kit, etc. That's how I do it. I do it really, really based on looking at user needs and looking at our business needs. That's the data matching. It's really matching. It's a relationship engine to get fidelity in a relationship. If you're dating, and you say, what do you want, out of life? Oh, this is what I want out of life. Great. Let's find the middle and let's, merge.
Thank you for that, Jose.
Awesome.
That was amazing. And from what I get, let's say I have one need that is getting more signups, for example. That's one of the goals, like getting signups and getting building an email list. And I connected with, let's say they want to build the connection between owner and dog. So I can do like sign up for free for this PDF tutorial on how to understand your dog, let's say really fast. So, or just giving a 10-15% for the next workshop for the sign up. That would be like connecting those 2, like the sign up with a user need, and then I find the value proposition in both of that, and that would be like one section. That could be like in my hero banner. Would that be a good translation, like done really fast?
Yeah, the hero banner is perfect. Keone, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can look at it. Generally, I look at doing tit for tat. I look at it in a number of different ways. I look at it first, if this is the goal for the user and for the client, which is signing up for an email list. I look at it from a content perspective. So what kind of content would I need to put in there for it to be valuable? So that means that I would need to have some sort of an ongoing campaign around happy pet owners and their pets, and ways to keep that relationship happy. Then I would think about what is a lead target. So what is one thing that is super valuable that I could provide that would have people even sign up for the email list? Then I would think about it from a technical perspective. Okay. So then I would be like, okay, if this is the content lead, where in the place, where on the website would I want to have that content? Okay. I want to prioritize it so it'd be in the masterhead of the website. All right. Got it. But then I also want to make sure that I want for them to be able to sign up and get a reminder to sign up on the email. So maybe when they read a certain part or they scroll to a certain part of the website, then a small email pop-up would happen and it would prompt them to sign up for their email, right? And then you want to think about it even further. You could even push it further. Would be like, okay, how could I make this little email pop-up delightful? So maybe it pops up and there's like a little gif of like a cute bunch of rabbits playing with their pet owner or something like that, and they'll be like, oh, okay, and then they get like this cute burst of warmth, and then that's when they sign up for email. So I generally look at it from a content perspective, and I look at it from a technical perspective when I'm doing the tit for tats.
Awesome. We have Tyrone. You have your hand up, Tyrone. Go ahead.
Yes, I have another question. If we're not done with that one, wait.
No, go for it.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going. So just going back to voice and tone that we had a discussion on earlier, and also talking about automated marketing. Looking at users on different channels, like social media channels, for instance, Instagram versus LinkedIn, or even like segmented audiences and mailing lists. How segmented would you get with your voice and tone between those channels? Because Instagram audiences can sometimes be different than the people that you're speaking to on other platforms, on Facebook and LinkedIn, for instance. How segmented, or is it even meaningful to go through users and going through core on different user journeys and stuff based on the channels, or is that getting too segmented? Am I just doing too much thinking about that?
Segmentation is really an age thing. So if you look at who the audience is primarily for Instagram, you'll get a sense. So if you're, for example, for us, since we have a tiered segment, we would use the value proposition for our second and third users on a Facebook ad campaign. And then we would use the value proposition for the first user on an Instagram campaign, just based on their age. That's why the profiles have ages, right? So we know that the 28-year-old is better to capture on Instagram. We know that the 33-year-old and the 42-year-old will likely be Facebook or Google ads or YouTube. It's what we're thinking of doing. But also it could be when you actually buy the campaigns, you actually segment the age sets inside any of those platforms. Meaning, like, if you're going to buy ads for, Instagram, unless it's organic and you're just posting on Instagram, then you just blanket do the tonality for that particular age set. But if you're buying ads, you can pick the age and then choose an ad that you think resonates to that value proposition. I wouldn't necessarily personally change the tone too much, because the tone is a psychographic thing. Everybody here of different ages, me and Jim are the same person, right? So you wouldn't necessarily, the tone would be okay with us because it's more of a cultural thing. Whereas the value proposition, the actual words, might be a thing about where you are in your career stage-wise, if that makes sense. Does that help in terms of how to segment?
Perfectly, yes, thank you.
Awesome. So I think we're good to proceed now to our upload, and I'll go ahead and share my screen. Thanks everyone for your questions, and thanks for everyone's answers as well. I think everyone benefits from the learnings here, and we're all grateful for that. So thank you very much. And here's our upload for today. Patricia, would you like to go ahead and read that?
Yes. So for our upload, what was one valuable thing you got from today's broadcast? So Anyone care to share? Raise your hand or drop it on the chat of a valuable thing you got from today. There you go, Sergio.
Yeah, so I think that the most amazing thing that I got out from today's meeting was seeing how practical it is to use the impact narrative exercise to just build the marketing funnel or the high level thinking about the marketing funnel, because it's not like super specific, but you have like the whole idea there. It seems obvious now that I think about it, but I haven't thought about it before in that way. So that was the gem for today.
I would like to say that from the biggest takeaway for me would be the community, and I've been a little anxious doing this website work. It's not something I feel comfortable doing. I know creatively I can solve this problem, and it's nice not to do it on my own and being able to ask directly here, like my challenges, because this is like a challenge that I was facing yesterday, and that I will keep facing over this month as I go and work forward in this engagement. So that's my biggest takeaway, like this space and having the opportunity to ask and receive answers. I'm thankful for that, and yeah, I'm Pape and I'm complete.
Awesome.
Got some few on the chat. So
Yeah.
we have Paul, Aqualina. Thank you all again. Appreciate the great insights. Thanks, emergency team for stepping up. Thank you. Thank you for being here. We also have Roxana. The flexibility of core is amazing. Thank you all for sharing your experiences. And we have Andrea Ava. What I got from today was being aware of where I am in the process and understanding the value in our story. Thank you so much for everyone's insight and save me from the mental breakdown of the week. Thank you, Ava, for being here. And I think I feel the same with you that through this webinar or whatever it is, I call it the portal. We are not alone in this journey. So I think that's it.
Yeah, we have just one more from Andre I wanted to share. He says this is his first time on this session, and what stood out the most to him is just the flow and how awesome the community is. And he says, everyone definitely helped him answer his question concerning the brief, and he loves the problem solving and everything that happens here in the community. So thank you for sharing that, Andre. And now, we'll proceed.
Well, I'll do it. Let me do one upload. I mean, something that
Yeah.
I got out of it. First of all, how amazing you are, Tino, and how amazing the community is in general. Pape, Sergio, Pat, thank you so much for this. Being remote and being away, it's kind of an interesting thing to experience. And the biggest, the one thing happened right now in the chat, where Bobby Robinson said to Pape, hit me up, and Amit jumped in, and the conversation, on a Zoom between Pape, Amit, and Bobby about what Pape needs is exactly what, he needs right now in order to kind of do this project. We all have all the experience necessary to be experts. So it's really, we're a megazord, separate, we have separate powers. Together, we have all the powers and we can conquer anything.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Jose. And that is very true. So definitely hit each other up. It helps a lot, trust me. So let's proceed now, and let's talk about, speaking of hitting each other up and staying in communication with the community, let's talk about the Accelerator. Keone, would you like to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, so the Accelerator program we launched this month, we have our first cohort that's going through it, and they're having an incredible time. They're working on the very first circle that we have in the Accelerator program, which is about my story. So going through and being able to clearly articulate your story and your skill set, your purpose, and the kind of projects that you want to work on. So, the folks in their space have been finding a lot of clarity, and, it's just an awesome place just to network and to really have this space to kind of center yourself and find orientation, particularly around your career, both professionally and creatively. Uh, and that's not the only thing that we have in the Accelerator program. We also are going to be doing our broadcast almost wholly inside the community, so that will be happening circles. So the next cohort our current cohort is going to go through our next circle, which is going to be around core. So doing core for yourself, whether it's yourself creatively or your business. We're going to be going through that and leveraging the work that we've been doing for the last month, which is around our story. We also have the vault, which is where you can find real decks, real projects that we've done, and get that experience. So, for example, the brief that I was talking about earlier at the beginning of this conversation, it's in the vault. It's the brand brief, and it's there. And you can see it in all of its unmitigated glory. But we also have other tools for you guys as well. So if you need statement of work, if you need first meeting documents, if you want, UI frameworks, UX examples of documents that we've done, like all of those things are going to be there, so you can find the confidence in your work that you're doing. And then, of course, we also have play. So we started with core office hours, and now we're going to probably break out into a movie night and something of a creative exploration, like sketching or journaling or illustration, one of those. But that'll be kicking off this month as well. So if you're interested, if you feel like you need a community that can provide something a little bit deeper in terms of guidance for yourself on a professional level and a personal level, check out the Accelerator. And yeah, if you guys just want to check it out, email me, keone@thesystem.co, or you can DM me. I'm here, and I'm totally able to answer any questions. So yeah, and then we can go on to the next slide. And then also, guys, we have a free Facebook community. So a lot of the conversations that we have, some of the follow-up that happens post-show and stuff, you can find in our Facebook group. So it's like Core Brand Strategy Foundations.
Yep, definitely. And then this is for us to we'd like to ask you guys that if you guys got some good information here and like what the community shared, if we ask you to share on Instagram as well, share with the, please tag We Are the System, tag at Keone Chong, at Mary A. Gribben, tag at Jose Caballero, and use the hashtags Core is Magic and the hashtag We Are the System.
My favorite thing is when people share, but one of my favorite things is when Adriana makes her amazing posts that are like super magical. They're just very touching. So thank you everyone for sharing.
Yes, definitely. We love seeing that. And we'd like to remind you again that this is all brought to us and all of you all by coreismagic.com. So please like and subscribe us on all social media platforms. We Are the System. I'd like to remind you guys again.
Thank you all for being here. Just remind that we are the system, and this is all co-creation. As you see, we answer the question that we have each other. Jose said something really important a couple of weeks ago. All the answers are in this community. I mean, I think here's people that knows about web design, marketing automation, copywriting. I'm pretty sure there are a couple who knows about copywriting, design, of course, and strategy and business. So this is the power and the real value of this community, the shared knowledge that we have. So yeah, as Jose said today, we are a megazord. And when we work together and answer our questions together, I think there's a few things that we cannot overcome. building a nuclear reactor or something like that. But other than that, I think we covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, and so that is all for this week's office hours. Thank you very much again for participating, everyone, and we appreciate everyone here for everything. And thank you so much. Much love. Much love.
Yeah.
Much
Much love,
love,
everybody. Thank you so much. And while we outro, Tino, can you turn up the music a little bit? Give it like another 20%.
I sure will. Let me stop.
We need Pape to dance for the outro. Can I just say? Oh my gosh, I'll pin that. Are we done? Are we done? Oh my gosh, I'm getting comments.
I don't know if Pape ends
Pin
like the
that.
whole series, the whole
Highlight. Spotlight. Pape!
Hold on, let me stop. If I stop sharing, I can't hear. You guys can't hear the music.
You can share just music under advanced.